Chakmung Namoy, or Happy New Year from Ho Chi Minh City, which is celebrating their Lunar New Year's tonight. This is a hugely important holiday for them and they've been preparing for weeks. In this video we'll show you where we've been and some of our key impressions.
Our trip explored the country from north to south. We were a group of 14 with an exceptional guide. In Hanoi, we saw many of the old French buildings and learned why Ho Chi Minh is revered by the North and South alike. From there we went on to Halong Bay, where we spent the night on this traditional boat called a junk, sailing among the 3,000 of these rock islands. After that we flew to the ancient capital in Hue. But highlights also included a vegetarian lunch prepared for us by nuns at a monastery, and later a visit to an orphanage. Another flight took us to Da Nang and Hoi An, where we walked the ancient town and enjoyed a cooking lesson. We next flew to Nha Trang. We drove to a typical village, where the village chief showed us his home, provided us lunch, and answered all our questions, which ranged from governance to birth control to their village problems. They showed us how they make bamboo products by hand. I began to appreciate that this is really a poor country, with a median income of around $250 a month. We also visited a fishing village, as well as an exclusive beach resort. A long bus ride took us to the flower capital of Vietnam, the beautiful city of Dalat. A landslide provided us bonus entertainment. We had dinner as smaller groups among several local homes, again getting insights into their Buddhist religion and their home life. From Dalat, we visited a very poor village with a distinctly different ethnicity. They grow coffee. It turns out that Vietnam is the world's second largest coffee exporter. We also visited a Lat village where they showed us some of their customs. Yes, we participated. Students at the university were eager to meet us so that they could practice their English, so we split up and each student gave us personal tours while peppering us with questions. Another flight took us to Ho Chi Minh City, where we celebrated the Lunar New Year. The memory of the war is preserved in museums and parks, like this one, where we toured part of the more than 200 miles of tunnels used by the Viet Cong guerrillas to hide during the daytime. We also explored the Mekong Delta before saying goodbye to the new wonderful friends we had met. Jennifer and I spent one more week flying to Cambodia to see the world's largest religious monument called Angkor Wat, and then we took a bus to Phnom Penh before returning to Saigon to fly home. Cambodia is ethnically different, is poorer, practices a different Buddhism, doesn't celebrate the Lunar New Year, but has many similarities and experienced a hellish recent history. Here are 7 of my biggest impressions from the trip. Standing on their soil really drove home how planting landmines extends casualties from war for hundreds of years. There are still millions of landmines in Cambodia. We met an impressive American who is helping Cambodia demine their country, but at the current rate it will take 150 to 1,000 years. While we are on the hellish subjects, there's no escaping the consequences of war. In Cambodia, we saw the detention and torture centers of the Khmer Rouge and stood in their killing fields. The details are horrific, truly horrific. In Vietnam, we learned so poignantly that no matter what side you are on, war is a problem. Many of the poor farmers in South Vietnam were caught in between, supporting the South Vietnam government by day and the Viet Cong guerrillas by night. For many in the South, the real hell began as the U.S. withdrew. For others, hell has continued with deformed children from Agent Orange. Napalm added to the deforestation. Today there is very little wildlife in the country, other than fish and birds. Before this trip, the word Vietnam made me think almost exclusively about the war, but that's not how it is here now, and from now on I will associate the country with many beautiful thoughts. After all, 2/3 of the Vietnamese were born after the war. I was quite taken by both the country and its people. I was able to move past the guilt and embarrassment I had carried there with me, and by the end I was like a giddy child waving at the beautiful children and families who were more than happy to return my smiles and peace sign. They use the peace sign a lot among themselves. I think to them it stands for happiness. Yes, they are aware of the problems of having a strong authoritarian single-party government, but life is good and rapidly becoming infinitely better than it has been. Anything that could reignite another civil war is unthinkable. This culture is impressively alive, busy, moving, and living in the present and for the future, shedding all frustrations and worries. The terrible past is over. Life is good.
Happy New Year.
Vietnamese food is wonderful. Imagine a mixture of Chinese cuisine without the grease and French cuisine without the creamy. Celebrating the Lunar New Year is huge. While the United States has no equivalent, our Christmas comes closest. Instead of Christmas trees, everyone buys kumquat trees and yellow flowers. And everyone travels back to their family homes. And for 3 days, businesses are closed and everyone wears new clothes and takes pictures of each other. Smiles are everywhere. I truly could have sat by the road for days and watched the traffic. Hondas carrying very long pipes. Bicycles carrying sheets of plywood or glass. In the United States, we would hire a truck to take stuff from one place to another. In Vietnam, they just hire 100 Hondas instead. There are 86 million people in this small country the size of New Mexico, so it makes a lot of traffic. Now add to this the fact that they don't have lights at the intersections, and you get another reason why their traffic is so interesting, yet it works. It is truly amazing that they never seem to bump into each other. And add to this the problem that pedestrians need to cross the street, and you can see why this is high adventure. Finally, there is very little that brought me more joy than the very common family of 4 smiling on their Honda. But the one thing might have been the less common family of 5. Chúc mừng năm mới, Vietnam. This is how I will remember you, and my wish is that your future is one of health, happiness, and prosperity.